Welcome back. We will continue talking to Judge Jeanine Beyro. Judge Jeanine, how do you picture the future of Egypt with whatever going on right now?
Well, I mean, the one thing that I hope for is that the Egyptian people will continue to rally behind their president, and knowing that there is no leader who can always please everyone all the time.
Almost impossible.
I would think it is impossible. And I worry about Egypt. I worry about the Egyptian people. I worry about the fact that there is so much at stake right now. I worry about the stability in the Middle East. But what I do know is that we need a stable Egypt in order to have a stable Middle East.
So we have to focus on that first, make sure Egypt is stable enough.
Right, and people have to eat. The economy is not in great shape there.
And what is it about Egypt? It's like a mysterious country. Like everybody says, in order for the Middle East to be stable, Egypt has to be stable.
Well, I think it's because Egypt is so big. It's a quarter of the Middle East. I think it's because Americans are accustomed and connected with Egypt, whether it's, the Sphinx behind you there or the pyramids. I mean, you know how many Americans I know who run around wearing the cartouches, and, Americans are connected with the Egyptians.
Yes.
And, you don't see a lot of people going to, Iraq or Iran the way people, come to Egypt. There's a comfort zone there. And it is essential for the Egyptian people that be continued, because it helps the economy, it helps in terms of the connection and the perception that we have of each other. And I think that Egypt has an influence over the rest of the Middle East. Look, Egypt in, the 73 Accord,
yes,
the peace accord. I mean, Egypt was the first country to recognize Israel. The United States is connected to Israel. And we need Egypt in the Middle East to continue that accord with Israel so that stability continues. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why Egypt is very important. And the Egyptian people are not extremists. I mean, no, what you did on June 30th of last year is proof positive that you're not.
And that's why I wanted to make sure that people know that, I'm Coptic Christian by birth, and I have a lot of Muslim friends, and Muslim people. There are a lot of conservative Muslim people that cause no harm or damage to anybody, and I want to make sure that people know that we're not, you're not against Muslim people in general, or we're not against the region because of Islam. It's just because we're against the terrorists.
Look, you make a very good point, and that is this. A lot of Americans do not understand that because you're Muslim doesn't mean that you're an extremist, all right?
Yep.
That Egypt is 80% Muslim, all right? And, what we're talking about are the extremists, the people who are the fanatics, the people who are the terrorists. And I don't know of anybody who thinks that, a terrorist is a great guy. I mean, I don't think anyone in this room would think.
I hope not.
I just, you asked the question at the end of the segment. I mean, but we have an obligation to help a country that is a moderate country that wants nothing more than to survive. And it broke my heart when when I was reading about the Coptic churches that were being burned down. And then, when I was there, I talked to, and I forget his name, he was a pastor who said that the injured Christians were being helped in some of the mosques by the Muslims. And they recognized the importance of being together.
Well, I think the main thing that, the previous regime of Morsi has achieved, and the biggest thing, is that he united all Egyptians together. Before him, it was, there's like conflicts between Christians and Muslims, but now everybody realized that the seriousness of the situation, like we have to unite against terrorism. And
it's not just terrorism. The Egyptians that I know, and I know many in this country, are very proud of their heritage. They have a lot to be proud of. They have a lot to be proud of in terms of their history and what Egypt has taught the world over, centuries. And yet when you talk about some of the terrorists, they want to break down Egypt as a country, as a nationality, and just create an Islamic religious state. And the Egyptians don't want that, because the Egyptians are proud, as well they should be, of their nationality.
Yeah.
And if we as Americans can't relate to that, I don't know who can. So I am very supportive of Egypt, and I have to tell you, they stood up to terrorism in a way that I've never seen any other country in history.
Well, there's a saying that Egyptians are fighting terrorism for the whole world.
Yes. Yes, and they showed us how to do it. They said enough is enough.
Enough is enough. What's your advice to the government? What should they do? Look, I've been a prosecutor and a judge, but I wish them well. I wish them peace as they go through the hard decisions, but I'm in no position to tell them what to do. But I wish for the Egyptian people some stability. I would love to see tourism back to where it was. I met some great people in Egypt, and I want to be able to go back and see them, a little more comfortable with who they are. And I met a lot of women in Egypt who, there are domestic violence laws in Egypt. I met women judges in Egypt. There's a lot that we can relate to as Americans, and we just need to kind of connect a little more. As an Egyptian-born American resident and citizen myself, I'm very loyal to my home country, and I'm very thankful for America that gave me the chance to, to practice my profession, work and, prosper. So what's your advice to the Egyptians who are living in America to try to facilitate and bring back the relationship to the normal track?
One of the problems is that, I imagine maybe in most places in the world, people are, they remember breakfast, and that's about the end of it. That's how their memories go back to the start. But at the same time, I think it's important for Egyptians in the United States to talk about how they abhor violence, because sometimes the broad brush approach that we all take, because we're not as informed as we might be, says, well, you really, unless you say something, you must be in favor of it. And I remember as a sitting DA, as a district attorney, right after 9/11, and I was in New York City on 9/11, okay? I was literally, I saw the smoke from the first plane, and then, of course, the second. And I saw that a lot of Egyptians, a lot of Arabs became the victims of hate crimes. And I was, I believe, president of the New York State DAs then, and I had worked with the cardinal in getting the law passed, and I enforced that law against anyone who violated or harassed or, created any kind of violence against someone from the Middle East. But I think that what some Americans wanted to hear from people in the Middle East was how they abhor violence too. Now, it may be that they were frightened, I don't know. But I think that that's what Americans want to hear. They want to hear that we're not part of this.
Yes.
And I think that would be important, and I think it would help move things along.
How do we promote peace in the world? I mean, things have been crazy over the last few years.
If I had the answer to that, I don't know where I'd be, but, I think it's important for us to talk. I think...
communication?
Communication. I think things like Shafiq Aber's East-West Initiative, that foundation. I mean, I spoke to those people from Egypt and the United States who were coming together, the best of the best, the brightest of the bright, working on projects that will continue after they have met and investigated and visited each other's countries. I think we need to do more of that. I think we need to dialogue, and it sounds so silly sometimes, but this is now an age of global communication. And the global dialogue through the internet, through your television show, through YouTube and all that is important. We all want the same things, and we've got to educate ourselves a little more as to what other countries may do in this situation, because their culture is different than ours. we can't expect everybody to be just like we want them to be.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it's hard, but I think part of the humanity, like, you know, people need to understand that over the years, wars just were destructive. Nobody benefited from wars. You know, people died for no reason, for, you know, religious differences, for race differences, for so many things. I mean, isn't it time to understand that, you know, live and let live?
From your lips to God's ears. Let's just hope that that's the case.
All right. Thank you very much, Judge Jeanine, for being in our show today. It was a privilege to have you, and always a pleasure to see you again.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.